Welcome to Legal Beagle.
Welcome to the Legal Beagle with Sophia Morales and attorney Kristina Lyke. Today we will be discussing victimization in divorces and if there is such a thing as victimization. Thank you for joining us here today, Kristina.
Well, thank you for having us.
So let's get right to the meat of the matter. Is there such a thing as victimization in divorce? And if so, can you explain what you mean?
Sure, absolutely. There is victimization. When I state victimization, that means that there's an individual that is being the victim in a divorce or custody matter. And a lot of times this happens with significant others, or we have, the spouses that basically create a undue hardship, and actually it could be physical abuse, it could be economic abuse, but they become the victim in this, and they become victimized in the divorce process. And also the judicial process can also victimize them too as well. So that's what victimization means when I say that.
And who do you generally observe being victimized?
Well, there's no general stereotype on that, but I would say this. There's a lot of different ones. It could be women, it can be men, but a lot of times you see more women, but because men, statistically, they do not want to come forward because either they're embarrassed or the police get called to the house and the police won't take them. They'll take the woman sometimes. And then, because why? This is a man, right? Because we still have those stigmas out there, which is sad because men do get abused. And I stick up for both sides, and I want to make sure that's clear because I get both sides of the fence. I get the woman's side, and I also get the man's side. And I'm very blessed to have three brothers. They taught me to be a tough individual, but I want to make sure that we also stand up and get the statistics correct for men with victimization and physical abuse.
So what are some signs of someone who's being victimized in a divorce? And can you provide a couple of examples?
Sure. A lot of times we'll see people who used to be like an extrovert in the community. They had like lots of friends. They were the party going person. And then all of a sudden they're the introvert, right? We also see individuals who they were very tight with their family members. Like for instance, I go over on Friday nights to my mom and dad's house, have dinner with them, right? If I was the person that was being the victim in the marriage or in the relationship, then I would slowly step away from that. And then they would wonder, where is Kristina at? Where is this individual at? And so basically I call them the aggressor in the relationship, but basically what they're trying to do is take you away from your friends and family. Now there's also what we call there's domestic abuse too as well. That's part of the victimization. They will only go for the body mass. They will not go for the head or the hands or the legs. So you don't have any documentation to show that there actually was physical abuse, but there's also economic abuse too as well. They keep all the checkbooks. They keep, the mortgages in their name, the deed is in their name. The individual who is the victim in the case actually does not know how to, balance a checkbook, does not have retirement, and they take them away from their workforce. Oh, you don't need them. You just need me. We need more time together. So basically, they are so isolated at the end of their relationship and marriage that they become this victim in the case, and their self-esteem just goes completely down because physical abuse, people indicate that, name calling is not a domestic violence. It absolutely is.
I would agree with that. Yes.
Absolutely. I remember the old saying, I don't know if you remember this, but sticks and stones may break your bones, but names will never kill me, or whatever it was.
Yeah, names will never hurt me. I always found that to be false.
Names will never because I would rather take a punch sometimes, right? I would rather take a punch than a name call. But the thing of it is that actually pushes them into a box so that they are surrendering to the aggressor. So their self-esteem is gone. They have to rely solely on that person for everything. So that's what are some of the examples I see.
Yeah, it sounds like a progressive, undermining and isolating of the individual on mental, emotional, physical, social, economic levels, as many as they can touch. Is that
Absolutely.
a fair assessment?
That would be very fair.
So what have you personally observed through family law on how this kind of victimization can affect the outcome of a case?
I've actually observed a lot of different mechanisms. First of all, as I stated earlier, domestic violence, when they hit the mass of the body, as I stated earlier, there's no pictures. There's no pictures. There's no evidence. They don't call the police, and they're not going to the doctor. And if they go to the doctor, they may lie to the doctor. I mean, there is, some safeguards out there. Like if you go to the emergency room and the emergency nurse or doctor believes it's physical abuse, they may call the police. But how many times, they're pretty busy a lot of times in the emergency room. So, I'm glad that they do that. But a lot of times this is mistaken in front of the judge. The judge looks at it and says, well, there's no evidence here. I don't believe this domestic violence. A lot of the times that happens. So what happens is they become re-victimized again by our judicial process. And so it's a difficult situation. I've actually been in one for approximately 3 years, or so in the history of my career, that it was economic hardship. And the economic hardship person basically is indicating, hey, I don't care about you, but you will not have anything of our marriage. You will not have any retirement. You will not have, anything. You're not going to have a fair and equitable resolution. And they will motion the court until there is no money left. Unfortunately, sometimes these judges don't realize that this is another form of divorce.
It's mutually assured destruction is
right.
Like what they're going for here.
It's another form of abuse. And basically what they're doing is not giving them attorney fees. So then what they received maybe in the judgment of divorce, they're not going to be able to afford it because of all these attorney fees that they had to pay for because of all these motions that they filed afterwards. Mm-hmm. So that's, some of those are things I've seen too. And I've actually, I've seen people they're fearful to actually walk out in the parking lot because they are fearful of their spouse or the other individual, which obviously we already have a PPO, and there might be even a no contact order on them because there's a criminal matter. But you do see a lot of things, and you have to make sure. I've observed people and I'm very protective of my clients. I've actually hired bodyguards for some of my clients because I cannot watch them at all time periods. So when they go into court, I make sure that they are taken care of and they're walked out, because in the court system, you cannot carry a gun. So they cannot go, there's not protection there. And the sheriffs, now there's a lot of deputies at certain different courts, and I have a lot of friends as the deputies in the courts. So they're very, very, very good to my clients, but they're not always there either. And they might have another emergency. So sometimes when it's a severe situation, we'll make sure that they're taken care of that way too as well.
This really brings some stuff back for me. I'm divorced from a gentleman. I've had some unwise youth. These stories bring a lot of stuff back for me. Do you notice going through the system that sometimes the aggressor tries to play the victim as they're going through this? I know that was a trick that my ex once tried.
Yes, I'm glad that you brought that up. They actually do. And it's very sad because, when I first started practicing, I was like, they manipulated the system, and I observed this, and I'm like, how do I change this around? Because I know my client is the victim, right?
Right.
So
yeah.
What I saw is that I've observed that they will manipulate the children to mom or dad. So let's say dad is the victim in the case. Dad is filing that divorce. He is such a nasty man, or vice versa, right? Mom. Right. The person who filed the divorce, because they're trying to protect themselves and protect the children, usually the children will feel so bad for the aggressor because they manipulated their little minds and they played with them. And then eventually it goes to parental alienation. And so therefore the kids don't want to stay with mom. So dad or mom, whoever the aggressor is going to get full physical custody, right? And then it goes by the best interest factors, but they'll try to hire all the experts too, because they have the wallet, right? The pocketbook and all the money. So yes, I have actually observed how they manipulate the system. And, sometimes you come up with narcissistic individuals, in my opinion, that actually try to use the system to their advantage. And everything is always, never their fault, but always the victim's fault. And that's another sign that you always look for. But you also want to, I put this caveat out there because for last couple of years, I've been hearing a lot, oh, he's so narcissistic or she's so narcissistic. So finally, I've been asking my client or the person who comes in, well, what does that mean to you?
Yeah,
What's the definition of that? And I find that some people, whatever we do, I always try to be careful that we always get all the evidence before we present it to the court, because you can't get all of it, but when you place a pleading into the court, there's court rules on that, and you want to make sure that they are truthful and accurate to the best of your ability. And so we need to verify. And a lot of times, you can see, I can see this person being narcissistic, but I'm not going to put a title out there because I am not a psychiatrist and I'm not going to put that
exactly.
out there, right? So,
Yeah, it's far better to list the behaviors than it is to slap the label on it.
absolutely. And that saves you from a defamation suit too, as well.
Yeah, because you're just stating the facts. You
Right.
can't help that the facts look bad.
Correct. That's absolutely right.
So, have you noticed when you're dealing with one of these aggressor victim kind of situations that, like, the attorney will also end up in the crosshairs of the aggressor?
Well, yes, actually, I have. I have been in the middle of a lot of different things as the family law. Being a family law attorney is one of the most dangerous fields, I believe, but it's the most rewarding too, because the fact is you can see these victims, whether it's a man or a female, you see them and they are striving and they're just begging for someone to listen and help them, because all this time period they are such isolated individuals, and so someone's actually got their ear, or I have their ear, and vice versa.
Or yeah, they have your ear or something like that.
I'm actually listening to that person and they are so just excited that someone's listening to them. And then, it's funny because, not haha funny, but when you're in court, sometimes you are actually threatened. I've been threatened several times. I've been followed. They tried to follow me home. I'm very careful about that, and I don't let that bother me at all because, I'm also into politics and stuff like that too as well. So, I mean, obviously, it shouldn't happen, and people shouldn't do those kind of things. But you have to realize when you're a family law attorney, those kind of things do happen. And I'll never forget the video that I seen years ago that had this man right behind the tree and he's getting shot at, and that was the wife's attorney, because the man was so just absolutely upset that this man took all this stuff away from him, this attorney. And so I
Yeah,
think
it's
about
the
that.
attorney's fault. Yeah.
Right, right. You just have to be careful as an attorney, but you also cannot you shouldn't let fear get in the way of representing. So I don't, and I kind of like taking down bullies in court, and I get a smile on my face when I actually have seen and observed my client actually getting their freedom back. And so that's
Yes,
actually rewarding in and of itself.
that is amazing. So, what is the advice you would give someone who is potentially a target for victimization and maybe has or has not realized that this is what's happening to them?
So my advice is this: do not talk to, you might not have talked to your parents in a while or your friends. Don't get on the phone and call them and say, hey, I'm going to try to have freedom, because that goes on, right? I mean, it goes everywhere. And what you want to do is you want to contact, for instance, myself, here at Like Law. We go and I'll talk to the individual, have a consultation, and explain this is what we need to look for. We need to make sure that there's no bugs into, and I say bugs, but like there's like a tracking device on your computers or tracking devices on your car. So I tell them like certain places to go, see if that's being connected to
Case.
their
Yeah.
spouse, right? So, and I also explain to them what kind of things we need to look for. Like anything that comes in the mail, if he opens it and goes to sleep or she goes to sleep, take a picture of it. Find as much things that you can, take pictures of the whole entire house, try to find as many things as possible so that we have the upper hand when we go and file, that we know where things are located, because things become missing And then the manipulation starts. We want to come up with a good game plan because everybody's facts are different. There might be motions that we need to file beforehand, which are ex parte motions. We might need to get a personal protection order, might need to have exclusive use of the marital residence. But I always like to try to come up with a plan for this individual so that they are not going to lose everything and they are actually going to get their freedom back.
Well, yeah, exactly. Because one of the most dangerous moments with an abuser or an aggressor, as you're calling them, is when you draw that line and you say, I'm out.
You're absolutely right. And you also want to give this individual the ability to have their self-esteem back. I start off with, let's get you into a kickboxing class, taekwondo. I'll take them to not take them, but I'll direct them to certain places to go to, get them lined up with a therapist, and make sure that they're putting all these Post-its around saying, I'm a good person, I'm intelligent, I'm beautiful, because they need that reinforcement of self-esteem.
I'm okay, I'm strong, and by gosh, people like me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I also say that every morning when I get up.
There you go.
It helps me out a lot.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your wisdom around this really important and sensitive topic.
Well, thank you, and have a wonderful day.
And if you're feeling like there may be victimization going on in your primary relationship, or even in your divorce, if you've gone that far, or if you just want to understand your rights, contact Kristina Lyke and get strong legal guidance from someone who won't back down. Visit likelaw.com to schedule a consultation and take the first step towards protecting yourself and your rights. Your voice matters, your family matters, and you don't have to fight alone.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.